And now what we're going to do is we're going to jump over to talking about Creative Cloud, because this is our main demonstration topic. And thank you, whoever that they didn't leave their name who suggested this, but this is such a great thing that we all sort of need a refresher on if we haven't had it, or to understand from the ground up, because it's a lot. So what we're going to talk about is the Creative Cloud app, and how the things that you can do here relate to what you can do in Illustrator on the desktop, also Illustrator on the iPad, Fresco, all of these things that are linked by the cloud in a sense. The different files that you create, whether they're your synced files, whether they're your cloud files, the files that you create on the iPad, or library files. There's a lot of different kinds of content that we create here. So this is the app that brings it all together. And this is the Creative Cloud desktop app, which I'm getting from just clicking up here on my menu bar. I'm on a Mac. And so the first thing that you see here is, the apps pane, which shows everything that I have currently installed. Tells me the status, if it's up to date, or if there's an update available. This is where, of course, you can open apps, you can update them and or downgrade them, like Anna had to do to go back to an earlier version of Illustrator. So as you can see right here, I have two versions of Illustrator. I have version 24 and I have version 25. So that's Illustrator 2020 and Illustrator 2021. I just like to keep these two versions installed in case I ever have to go back and open up the earlier version. But you can always get any of these versions that you want by going to the program, Illustrator in this case, clicking on this menu, More Actions menu here, and then go to Other Versions. So if I go in here, I see a list of, there's my current, the latest version. I can choose to uninstall it if I need to. Here are all of the earlier versions of incremental versions of Illustrator 2025. And then down here, we can see I also have 24.3 installed, and then I could uninstall it there. So this is sort of the control center for all of these things. Now, I've had some trouble recently. I had trouble with a recent version of Illustrator 2025, and it really threw off my work and everything. A lot of the time, I go straight to updating because I want to see what's new in Illustrator and I want to be able to teach it. But sometimes, when you have a big deadline or you really don't want to sort of mess everything you're working on up by kind of having to learn something new, you just kind of want to stay where you are with Illustrator. So I understand both ways of working. And so this is where you control your updates. But I wanted to also point out that there is this little cloud button here. And if I go into here, there's a gear icon, and I'll just go and look at my settings and how these settings are set up. So if I go over to apps here, there's a setting here called auto update. Mine is unchecked. So I personally do not want auto updating, because I want to be able to choose when I say, okay, I want the new version of Illustrator or not. I just want to do that manually myself. So I leave this unchecked, and that's where that setting lives. And then under General, these settings are here where you can choose to always keep Creative Cloud up to date. So I'm different on this setting. I want my Creative Cloud desktop app to be kept up to date. I don't mind having that updated without my click. So that's why I have this checked here. So that's just, kind of the two ways that I handle this. All right, so let me click done there. And I'm going to go ahead and get my notes because I don't want to miss anything that I'm talking about as we go through this. All right, so we've looked at our desktop apps here, but if I go to the top of the screen here, I can also click on mobile to look at all my mobile apps. Of course, these are things where the only way to deal with this is by sending a link, and then you can open it up on your iPad. Now, there is a Creative Cloud mobile app, so you can go ahead and install that on your iPad if you haven't already, so that you can do some of the same things that I'm doing here on the desktop version over there on your iPad as well. And then, of course, you can install Adobe Illustrator for the iPad, which if you haven't tried it, I highly recommend it. I just spoke about it at the Illustrator Summit, and I really love this app, and it's improving all the time. Then, of course, we have Fresco. That's another app that works really nicely with Illustrator because not only does it have pixel-based brushes, but it has vector-based brushes as well. So we have all of these apps here that we can look at. And then on the web, the main ones that I use are Adobe Fonts. That's how all those fonts get into your Illustrator fonts menu there. Of course, we have Adobe Color, and that's the app where let's see, that's the website where if I launch this is the one, and I'll bring this in, where you can create color themes and look at all your color themes, share your color themes, and that sort of thing. And Illustrator has gotten rid of the color themes panel in the most recent version of Illustrator. So now really everything, if you want to use Adobe Color, you need to do it by launching that website. Of course, Adobe Fonts, there's a website as well that very often launches from within Illustrator on the desktop when you are, wanting to bring more fonts in, sync more fonts, search for fonts, and that sort of thing. So that's also a website or a web-based app. Then, of course, there's Behance and Spark. That's another one that I use a lot. So this is kind of, a launch pad in a way. All right, so let's see. So what I recommend here is just to always, this app changes, the Creative Cloud desktop app. So constantly be clicking and exploring because, there'll be a new button. I'm sure of it. It seems to happen a lot. So things are going to change as this evolves. All right. So now what I wanted to show you is to talk about this next tab. So we've looked at apps. Now let's look at your work. So this represents your the cloud documents that you create, for example, on the iPad using Illustrator on the iPad or Fresco, and then also your library assets. So those can come from a lot of places. They can come from Adobe Capture. They can come, which is a mobile app. They can come from inside of Illustrator, things that you create and add to your libraries. But this is sort of a central hub to look at and manage everything that you have in all of your libraries. And so we'll talk about that. Let me just make sure that I haven't missed anybody's question, if anybody has. All right. Okay, good. All right, so let's talk about libraries. And I have a little list here. So libraries, I've got one out here. They can contain color themes. These are those color themes, those 5 colors. Color themes that you can create inside of Illustrator, but you can also get them from that Adobe Color website, and you can create them using the Adobe Capture app. Then you have Illustrator files that you can save in here. I have capture patterns in here. So all manner of things, but also you can have brushes that you create. So all of my Coyle Photoshop brushes, the ones that I use in Fresco, they're available to look at here. Now, I can't use them in Illustrator because they're pixel-based brushes, but at least I can see, what I've got here. I can use capture shapes. So any of those sort of vectorized shapes that I created in Adobe Capture can appear here. Templates. So if I create a template file in Adobe Illustrator, save it as a .ait file. Let's see if I have one. Do I have one in this library? No. Where is that? I don't know where it is, but I'll probably locate it at some point. I've got another template file I can show you. If you have paragraph and character styles that you save for InDesign or Illustrator, you can keep those in a library as well. So really anything that you create in a library, it's, it just depends on it if it's compatible with the program that you have open at any given time. So for example, if I create a gradient in Adobe Capture, it's not going to work in Illustrator because there's an incompatibility between gradients there. So it's just, here and there, you're going to run up against things that aren't compatible with Illustrator. So those are some of the things that you can have inside of your apps. Let me go over to these, to this list here and just go through working with these libraries. So here is my list of libraries on the left-hand side. All of these ones that have the globe next to them are those publicly shared libraries. So for example, that could be the Coyle brushes. It could also be, if I share a library for a class, it could be here. These are kind of like read-only libraries, and they've been shared. In fact, you can see right here, it says view only access here. Then we have shared libraries. So if you want to share a library with another member of your team, you can always go here and go into to this little person icon here. So we have the little person icon here that lets you know this is a shared library, and you can click on this icon and invite people by their email address. You can also give them editing permissions or just viewing permissions, and that sort of thing. Then you can also filter your whole list of libraries so you can decide whether you want your own personal libraries to be at the top, the shared ones to be at the top, etc., like that. If you haven't been using libraries and you just want to kind of test them out and see how they work, you can go to this button, Browse the Marketplace. Let me go back because I think I clicked on that kind of fast, but here it is right here, Browse the Marketplace. Click on that, and then there's a bunch of libraries here. And like I said, some of these will not work, don't have vector content in them. But this one, for example, right here, Faces, this is one that will work. It has a bunch of Illustrator art in here. And if I click on Follow, now I'm following that library. So if I go back to your work, and let me see if I can find, I don't know if, here, name. Let's see, where's Dan Styles? Faces by Dan Styles. There it is. And right here are all of the vector graphics that are in there, and then also some template files. So just knowing that if you ever want to create a template file, that sort of gives you lots of a starting point that you can use in other documents. So I could go ahead and open this AI template file here in Illustrator and then have be sort of ready to use these assets. Okay, let me go and make sure I got all of my points here. All right, here's another thing that's really interesting about libraries that's a little more recent. And that is that you can add to a library. So let me go here, and I've got a file I want to, let's see, where is this file? Going to my downloads. Okay, here we go. So I'm grabbing a file from my desktop, and there it is. You can see I'm just dragging it over this library and dropping it. So to add things to a library, you can just drag and drop from your system. So this is the file that I just added here, and it's an iPad Illustrator file. Let me go into Illustrator and look at opening this. So if I go to my libraries panel and I go to the LC color themes. This is a big library, so it's going to take me a minute to get through here for find that thing that I just dropped there. But what Illustrator does, or what CC Libraries does, is it categorizes everything. So at least you can kind of come here and filter. So I'm going to filter by graphics. So anything that's an Illustrator file, a vector graphic, an SVG file, a capture shape, those are included in this section of the library. So these are called graphics. That's what they're known as. And if you hover, you can see this one says created in Adobe Illustrator. So here's another one, created in Adobe Illustrator. And this one is called a shape. So I know that means it's created in Capture. So if I go here and double click on it, I can actually edit the version of this that's in the library by clicking on this pencil icon here. So and it says open source document. So if I click on this pencil, it opens up the document, this logo file here, and you can see it's got the name of the file here, but then it's got a whole long string of characters. So that is, what CC does when you put this in. When you drag a file in like that and you're actually editing the library file, they will have this long string of characters after them. But any edit that I make here, like this is one of those radial repeats. So let's say I add a whole bunch more to this, and I save it by just Command S, Control S, close that. Then that will be updating this library, this graphic in the library. So if I go back, filter by graphics, and see if I can find where that is, you can see this is the one with a lot more. So that there's a difference here when you're working with library assets. You can edit the actual original asset, and then it will be updated in the library. So if you're sharing it with somebody, that's your new updated logo. But another way to work is also to just use I'll use this shape right here for an example. Right click on it and place a copy. And then you get a little place icon. If I just do that, now I have a copy of that object. So it's good to know what the distinction between actually placing something in your document that is a copy of the art, like you're just using that art, a copy of it, or placing something that is linked. If I were to place this as a linked object, then anytime I came into the library and updated this logo, my file would update also. So just to know whether you're doing a link or just a regular placing of a copy. All right, so let's see if we have any questions here. Gail says, can you use this interface to move items between the libraries? Yes. So Gail, you can, and you may have been asking this about CC desktop, but it works inside the library too. So in both places, you have the option. So you can go here. You can take let's say, like, there it is. I think you probably saw this. You can move it to another library from here. You can copy it to another library from here. And you can do the same thing in CC. Okay. I just don't know what I did there, but let me go back to my CC library. So yeah, I can do the same thing over here. I can copy to another library, move to another library. So there's a place to do this almost everywhere, same functionality. Okay, great. Nancy says, sometimes we received an error that linked files aren't found. So yeah, that could happen, Nancy. Maybe and I'm not exactly sure if you move a file from one library, or a library asset from one library to another, it's possible that I don't know. I would expect that Illustrator would find it, but I'm not sure. But certainly if you're using linked, you're putting linked images in your Illustrator file, or you're putting linked Illustrator files in your Illustrator file, you are in charge of keeping up with that. So, and I've had this problem before. So, what I like to do is if I have a project, I want to have all of my assets that I have linked. They are also in the same folder, and I don't want to rename that folder. I don't want to move any of that anywhere, or else Illustrator will not be able to find it again. So that's linked files are great because they are updatable and because they save file size. They make Illustrator perform faster. The downside is that you have to, if you're dealing with files on your computer, you have to keep up with where those are, or Illustrator won't be able to find them. Okay, good. All right, so let's see. One other thing I wanted to say about this is that another thing that you can do here is rename or name an asset, because obviously shape 34, shape 31, these are the things that Capture just automatically generates when you create shapes in that app. But if you go back and name these, it'll make life easier for you later, because you can actually search. So you can search a library here. If I just click here, I can go, I think that one was called logo, and there it is. So, Illustrator helps you, or at least CC libraries, there's ways of organizing things. You can put things, they're organized by their category. Is this a graphic? Is this a color? Is this a color theme? Et cetera, et cetera. You can also name them to help yourself find them. And then you can also group libraries too. So if you have inside of a library, you want to group a bunch of different kinds of content into a group, you can create individual groups for that. And all of those things here, I believe, create new libraries there. Let's see. I might have to stop searching here, go back here, go inside of a library. And I saw that you could group. Here it is, the folder at the bottom. You can create groups by clicking on the folder at the bottom. There's also a button inside of the library here where you can add groups if you're working with your libraries inside of the CC app. All right. Let me go to next to synced files. All right. And then we're going to talk about cloud documents. So those are the last two things that I wanted to touch on here. So synced files, we've talked about libraries. Synced files are basically part of your cloud storage plan. So, when you're a subscriber, a certain amount of space is included. I've used so little of it, 6 gigabytes of 100 gigabytes here. So this includes your library assets. This includes your documents that you save to the cloud, which we will talk about next. And this also includes your synced documents. So the synced documents, let's go here. These are my cloud documents. Let me go to my Finder again. And I'm going to show you. So on your system here, and I'll show you where they are on the Creative Cloud app, but this right now I'm bringing in a Finder window. So on my computer, and right here, Adobe has placed this Creative Cloud Files folder or bucket here. And these are all synced files. So I can take anything from my system and drag it in here. And this becomes part of my cloud storage. So this is a place to back things up, to share things with other users, and also to share things with Adobe. Like I actually put a couple of movies in here when I was having trouble with a bug in Illustrator, and I wanted to show it to them. So I put it in here, and then I shared the link. And I'm not sure how I did that. Here it is right down here, quick actions, share links. You can just share link, kind of like you do with Dropbox. So this is what synced files are. It's just your space to add your files, but you can also access access those on your iPad as well, and through the cloud app here. So with the cloud app here, where you can get these is go to the little cloud, then go to this button here, Creative Cloud Web, and it's opening up a web page, just like, Adobe Color and Adobe Fonts. And here is my synced files. So these are just my storage here where I keep these files. So this is an alternative place to store things that you might want to use like on your iPad. So let me go and open up. I have another window, yet another window here. I'm going to open up, if you can stand it. Let me get this here, iPad Pro. All right, so let me bring my iPad into the window here. So this is my iPad screen that I'm just sharing right now. And this is the Creative Cloud app. Let me back out to my desktop here, or whatever you call this on the iPad, my home screen, and then click on the Creative Cloud app. And then let's see. I want to get that to go away. Sorry, I'm going to rearrange here. I have a lot of stuff open. Okay. All right. So here on the Creative Cloud app, same, we have a home button. We have your work on the left-hand side in this menu here. And so I can see recent files that I've worked on. Some of these are Illustrator on the iPad files. Some of these are Fresco files. Some of these are capture files. But this is under the category, if you can see this horizontal bar kind of towards the top where it says recent. And then if I click on the next thing, files, now we're looking at that same menu that we just looked at on the cloud app. So these are my synced files. These are my extra Adobe storage here. So for example, one thing that I can do, I'm going to swipe up to get out of here and go to Illustrator on the iPad. And let me go back out of here. In the lower left-hand corner, this is where I could create a new document, but below that, import and open is there. This is how you can access your files on your iPad, your Dropbox, and also your Creative Cloud synced files. So here is the highlighted icon for that. If I click on that, now we can see that these are the files that we were just looking at on the web. If I click on this AIT file right here, let me see if I can open that. So I'm going to open this AIT file on my iPad. So this one is not a real file. It does have my logo in it, but it's got some other junk that I was just testing out. But you can, and you can see the font just got synced there. It was not synced up for a second, but now that's the actual font. So you've got your brand, you want your logo. You can put this in a template file. I have color swatches. I have patterns here, but you can use these template files now in Illustrator on the iPad. So if you like to create a file in Illustrator on the desktop that you want to use as sort of your jumping off point, maybe you have a certain artboard size that you want, certain colors that you want, that sort of thing, you can set up a template file with those things in it, and then put that in your synced files, put it in your Dropbox or whatever, and you can open that from Illustrator on the iPad just by going to the lower left corner here of the home screen to open that. So that's synced files. Now, before I run out of time, I want to talk about cloud documents, and that is really important because everything that you create on your iPad, for example, Adobe Illustrator, all of these Adobe Illustrator files are not .ai files like they are on the desktop. They are .aic files. And so I'm going to close this window. Let me close all of this here and go back to my cloud document here. my cloud documents. So these are all .aic. As we can see, this is a cloud document. Anything in Photoshop or Fresco is a PSDC. So there's a C after that, letting you know this is a cloud file. If I go here inside of Illustrator on the desktop, this file that I have open here is a cloud document. You can tell that because it's got the cloud there. And it's different than just opening a regular Adobe Illustrator file. So when you want to, generally, I think by default, you're going to be saving your files in Illustrator as .ai files and putting them on a folder on your system. But if you wanted to save this as a cloud document, you could save it by going File, Save As. And right here, I just saved a cloud document. So that's why I'm seeing this particular dialog box. Let me click this and do this again. So this is the typical Save As dialog box that you see when you're saving something on your system. But you can also, right here, there's a button in Save As. Then you can save it as a cloud document. So if you click on this, then it brings you into that very different looking interface right there. You give it a name. You don't even have to append it with the file type there, and just click Save. And this will be added. This becomes a cloud document. So the thing that's really different about cloud documents is that they are constantly being saved in the background. Everything you do is saved up to the cloud. Now you can work on these offline. That's possible. If I go here to my home screen, or I can do this also in the Creative Cloud app. But you can see right here, there's that file. I just saved it. It's .aic. It's a cloud file. And there is a little check mark next to it that says that this is available offline. So if I'm not connected to the internet, I can work on this document, and then I can save it as well, but it won't be saved into the cloud until I reconnect. Here is the file that I just created. That was a template file that I opened from my synced files. I hope this isn't too confusing. I hope I'm doing a halfway decent job of explaining this, because it's a lot, I know. But there's a cloud next to it. If I click on this cloud, the cloud says offline only, but if I click on the cloud, it converts it into let me go back here so I can show you that. The green check mark appears. So that's just a way to work on these documents offline. But the big thing about these cloud documents is that, I'm used to working on regular Illustrator documents. And if I decide that I made a change that I don't like, I just close the document and don't save it. Well, that doesn't work with this kind of document because it's constantly being saved to the cloud. So the way that we deal with this is through version history. So cloud documents, .aic files, .psdc files, they have a version history. And you can get that by going to the version history panel. So if I go here to the window menu where all of my panels live, I can come down here and there's a version history. So this is, a newer thing in Illustrator since they introduced cloud documents. You can see a little thumbnail of the file that I'm working on. And then it's timestamped here. So you can see all of these changes that I made. So here's where this file started out. And it was just a pattern before I started adding text to it. And I can look at any of these and these are all auto-saved. I did not, but you can also hit Command S or Control S to save these things. And you will see, every iteration, every version of that file that you created. And you'll see a note down here at the bottom. Versions expire after 30 days. Mark the ones you want to keep. So you can go through here and wherever you hover, like say, I really want to keep the original when I didn't have any type here, then I just need to click on this flag here and you'll see that it's marked now. And that means that I will be able to come back and get this version no matter how many days have passed. So I can go through and click multiple versions that I want to keep here. See, and that's when I just dragged these items in, that's part of this version. And then one other thing that you can do is you can go to this little menu here and you can actually revert to this version. So I can go here, click on this, and this will come back. This file will be restored to that original version from the cloud. So that's version history. And you can control that in the version history panel here in Illustrator that you find under the window menu. But you can also find, look at the version history of documents inside of the Creative Cloud app, just like your, so really you can do a lot of these kind of cloud things here just as well as you can do them inside of Illustrator. All right, so wow. I just got that in right under the door there. That was a lot of information. Can you guys, is everything okay? Is there a question? I hope I didn't go too fast there at the end. Sometimes time flies. Is there a way to search by file type? Sandy asked, PNG or SVG in libraries. That's a good question. I feel like I've tried that before and I can't remember right now whether you can. It seems like they would allow you to do that, but off the top of my head, I don't know. Thank you, Dawn. Thank you, Krista. Thank you, Addie. Thank you, Leah. Oh, I'm so glad. So yeah, if you have any questions, I'll stay on another minute or two. And if there's an extra question about this, but yeah, it's a lot of stuff under, one roof. I'm coming back here so that we're not looking at my screen anymore. It's a lot to absorb. There's a lot of options. But I think that if you just, click around, like I was saying before, inside of those cloud apps, both of the desktop and the iPad, you'll, it gets better, and they're going to add new buttons and take away buttons anyway. So it's good to be in the habit, I think, of clicking around. All right, let's see. I've used Illustrator for 30 plus years, but love learning new things. That's great. I completely agree, Sharon. There's a lot to learn lately too, isn't there? Because there's updates all the time. Krista asks, if you copy to another library and edit in one of them, will it update the file in both locations? Ooh, that's a good question. I guess that it would. Yeah, because as long as you don't, you're not duplicating it, you're not making a copy of it, I would say that it would probably update the file in both locations. I would have to, test that to be sure. All right, great, Addie. Thank you so much. Okay, so Dawn asked, will we send a link to the recording? Yes, I will put that in an email, and it's going to direct you to my class sneak peeks, which is on my Teachable website. And I'm going to put the link here just so in case you're not already enrolled in that class. It's a free class. It's called Sneak Peeks, and you can go in there and get signed up, and that's where the full webinar will be. Thank you, Gail. Thanks, Mark. Oh, hey, Mark, one of my Illustrator buddies. Like, actually not capital I Illustrator, but Illustrator. All right, let's see. Thank you, Lucy. Awesome. Anna asked, could you explain how to get Adobe Illustrator for the iPad with the link that you said? Can I just install it directly on the iPad? Yes, you can install it from the App Store on the iPad. That's, the quickest way to do it. I think that get the link thing, I'm not sure where that takes you. But I'm sure it probably takes you either to the App Store or to a website. So you send that link to your iPad, you could get it from there too. Let's see. Sandy, thank you for your question, Sandy. That was great. Thank you, William. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Krista. All right. Well, it looks like we got all our questions answered. So I'm going to say goodbye. Thank you guys for coming today. And I will let you know when the next one happens. And of course, that'll be on our email. So thank you for being on my email list. Hey, Mark. All right. Bye, you guys. Bye, Gail. Take care. All right. Have a nice rest of your day.